And there's no food kind of poor at that or 1/4 bread at the shop can't buy a whole bread. That kind of poor at that one. Yeah, so this idea about being broke and can't come back. My position is if you're broke in a foreign country, come be broke in Jamaica because you can have a better life anyway. You understand, being broke in foreign. So again, as we were saying earlier, it's a mindset. It's the having the can-do attitude. It's the not having expectation for anything from anyone, right? So whatever situation you're in, as long as you have life, as long as you're able-bodied, you make it work. And that's what happened in my family growing up. As you said, we didn't have wealth, or we wouldn't even say we're poor, even though poverty is relative. But you could have considered us poor growing up, and that didn't stop me and my siblings or even my parents living life to the fullest. And the funny thing is, growing up, I didn't know I was poor. You understand? Until you start going out and mingling and mixing. But to show you the mindset we had, we were well rounded in terms of character, morals were solid, confidence, manners as you would say. That's how we grew up. And it's only when I started going to school and when you have that comparison, then you realize, oh, actually we haven't got a lot of basic stuff. We can't afford a lot of basic stuff.
What were some of the basic stuff that you couldn't afford?
Basics. So, like personally, when I was going to school, there's a point where the shoes front is not good. And when rainfall and stuff, you have to take off shoes because everything wet up. You get what I'm saying? There was even a point where again, talking about education, when you want to learn, you learn. Because I remember at one point I even had to wear grandma's shoes go to school. And that's the other thing I would say to kids growing up now. Be thick skin, know what you want, and don't listen to people or let teasing or name calling or whatever affect you. Because I was growing up and I had to wear grandma's shoes. My grandma at this point was like 80 something, 90, so we had to get soft shoes because she had a lot of bunions and corn. So we'd get like soft, almost like bed slippers type for her.
You remember that?
No, not really. Not really. No, I wasn't, yeah.
Right? And yeah, I had to wear that to school sometimes until we get around to a little hustle to get the proper school shoes. But that didn't stop me. So it come down to, for me, the mindset, the can-do attitude.
Trudy, tell us about your upbringing. What was it like?
Alright, so as Uncle made a valid point, I didn't know I was poor. No, I didn't know, honestly, because again, my dad had only just me. So I just used to see him go out. He never really had a government-based job, but I grew seeing my dad going out. If I started to realize when sometimes he never had lunch money, and then he would say, ask Auntie Patty, ask Auntie Peaches. I remember one morning I wake up and I'm always mature from a small so I got up, he never pressed my uniform, so I was like, maybe I'm tired, so I got up and pressed my uniform, ready, and I said, I'm ready to leave. He was like, I don't have no lunch money. No, and then I guess when him say, I was interested to go to school, I said, no, I can't do this, and him said, alright, go up Patty and ask her, because my auntie always buy cash for so, it should be the more one. So I think at that time I realized that me actually not have no lunch money, that we are poor, that's when but he never met that growing up. I didn't see it. And again, because my family was big, so I was always either the aunt, the uncle, or whatever, so I never really know, even when I was small. And I think Auntie Shammy was the first person who had a fridge, and so remember we go drink ice water there. I never know that not having a fridge. No, when I think about it, I was like, that's crazy. I didn't have a fridge, but I didn't know my aunt had. Because, you know, she would have been the older one that gone out there and make it was like crazy. When I look back, no, I didn't have a fridge, but I didn't know because it was fun. You just go to play and do whatever. So I didn't know I was poor, but I don't think I was the poorest in the community. And so I think that was a difference. So, and again, the family's big on education. So I think that kind of took our mind off poverty because we went to school and, you know, we craved for an education. So we never really missed other things.
Yeah, so on the path what Trudy is saying, it didn't define us. The lack of material stuff didn't define us. Because mentally, our parents were very solid in terms of their faith. So it was always God first, and with God all things are possible, and being able. And it wasn't, we weren't defined by what we had or even where we lived. Because as George was talking about fridge, remember I obviously went to live with my grandma at an early stage, and at that point, I mean, for those of you who know St. Elizabeth country at the time, like before it's now developed, there was no light, there was no running water. So it was rainwater off the roof, set up your funnel, went into the drum.
Yeah.
Do you understand? When it was in Kingston, it was walking for miles to go catch water in bucket and come back. Do you understand? So that's how I grew up, basically doing without the things now that it's now comfort to everyone. And it didn't, it wasn't, it's not something that affected us in a way not to stand shoulder to shoulder with the biggest and the brightest. And we had a level of confidence that wasn't cocky, but nobody's more than you. Equally, nobody is less than you. And that is always how I grew up. So, you know, I grew up, there was no fridge, there was no TV, there was no phones, there was no games. So all of these electronic devices, yeah, there wasn't around at that time.